Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with INN. I'm speaking with Killian Charles, President and CEO of Brunswick Exploration. Hi, Killian.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I think we can start our conversation with just a high level. I wanted to get your insights on sort of the impact of the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act since it's been instituted and, the Canadian Critical Minerals strategy. How has that impacted incentives and investments? How have they impacted the mining sector?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. When I look at the Inflation Reduction Act, it is something that is redesigning the global economy to a certain extent. We need to be focused on critical elements such as lithium, obviously, but other things like copper. And that act sort of does is reshore a lot of manufacturing capacity into the U.S. And when you're reshoring a lot of the manufacturing capacity, it also has a huge impact on bringing that raw commodity back into that market. Specifically as it relates to lithium, lithium is a little bit of an industrial mineral, right? Australia developed first in terms of lithium production because it was closest to the number one lithium manufacturer or user, I should say, which was China. And so, transportation costs play a huge impact in that. And when I look at the U.S., and when I look at a significant amount of investment by corporations into the U.S. to build that sort of battery technology, battery capacity in America, they're going to need what would like to say a local source of commodities. And so it's caused a huge impact. That's why you see a number of significant American companies looking to Canada to supply themselves. I always like to joke and say, from an American's perspective, the lithium triangle has nothing to do with South America and everything to do with the eastern half of the U.S., Quebec and Ontario. And so from that perspective, it's causing a lot of focus on parts of Canada and companies like Brunswick Exploration, which are focused on specifically lithium exploration in Canada, stand to benefit quite greatly from that, I would imagine.
Yeah, so just specifically, that was going to be my next question was, with all these investments and incentives, how has it specifically benefited your company from these programs? Because I remember there was a webinar that I attended. They were talking about some of these incentives that most of it are going, mostly to the downstream
Absolutely.
In the supply chain. So could you talk about sort of how has that benefited your company specifically?
Look, it's still almost exclusively on the downstream side, and that's a slow-moving crisis, I guess you could say, a forecasted train crash, because unless we have more investment on the upstream, unless we make more discoveries of commodities like lithium, which I have right here, we're going to enter a crisis. And so, I would say from the benefit of bringing attention to the situation, from the benefit of bringing investor visibility on it, it's been beneficial. In terms of direct investments from, let's say, corporations, they're still very much focused on the downstream type of things. But I think that's going to change. It's going to have to change, to be quite frank. You simply cannot say that you are going to invest so much downstream into manufacturing capacity without actually investing in the commodities that's necessary. And so, look, I'm from Quebec, and we see significant investments from both the federal and provincial governments into battery plants, into manufacturing capacity. And Quebec has significant amount of lithium potential, but you simply don't see the same level of investment. We're talking about billions of dollars of investment. And when you think about it on the upstream side, where, it's pennies relative to that.
Right. So how do you see that changing? So obviously, lithium is one of those materials that analysts are predicting, we're going to have a short supply as demand increases. How do you see that changing? And, with the more investments being enough to change sort of the dynamic for the supply side?
It's tough. Lithium is a relatively small market, and it's a market that moves quite significantly. I think even if you take a step back and look at the lithium price over the last 36 months, you'll be like, wow, that's a hell of a roller coaster ride. And that's indicative of an industry that is still growing, that it's still somewhat in its infancy. But irrespective of that roller coaster ride, investments are still happening on the downstream side, and those investments will have direct impacts on supply and the demand dynamics. So, my view has always been one of those things where when I look on a medium and, God forbid, a long-term basis, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure out there. And there's a lot of question in terms of, well, it's great that we set all these beautiful objectives, and it's great that we make, as collectively as a society, to say we're going to do decarbonization, and it's fantastic that we make these, job investments and say we're going to have all these high-paying jobs. But without access to those raw commodities, it's going to be really tough to actually execute them. And so, in my mind, when I look at supply dynamics, mines take a long time to build. Yeah. I would even say that it's frankly almost too late for some of these things if things don't drastically change. And so a company like Brunswick Exploration definitely stands to benefit from it, but in an atypical way, right? It definitely brings a lot of investor attention, but at the same time, it causes, or it stands to cause, price spikes, which, we stand to benefit, and consolidation in the space. You saw a significant amount of consolidation, M&A, in Western Australia over the last 10 years. The space is going to be doing the exact same thing in North America. There's frankly no difference as to why you wouldn't see that same amount of M&A activity. And companies that have, good assets in strong jurisdictions, which is, I might be biased, but that's what I think Brunswick Exploration has, we will stand to gain from that benefit.
Right. And this might be a good time to talk about your projects, your flagship Mirage project, what the status of that project is, and sort of your plans for 2024.
Yeah, so it's been a project that's moved quite quickly. People forget there's been significant forest fires in Quebec last year. So we actually only managed to get there in August, and within a month of landing, we were drilling 5,000 meters. We've just recently put out our last set of assays around that, and what we're discovering up there is something quite significant. Very high grade tick intercepts across multiple spodumene bearing dikes. It's exactly what you want to be finding. And so, when I look to the plan this year, the simple answer is more of the same, but truly that's what exploration's about, right? People forget that junior miners are in there, or junior explorers are meant to find mines. And so that's what we want to demonstrate this year, is that we believe that Mirage is something that's economically significant. It has a chance of being a mine. So that means lots of drilling, lots of prospecting. There's so many things that we haven't even approached yet at Mirage, undrilled targets. There's a lot more, basic prospecting that needs to happen. It's gonna be a busy year. Lots to do on the docket.
Right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Killian, and good luck on your 2024 exploration plans.
Thank you.
Thanks. And thanks, everyone, for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates and interviews. See you next time.